Hi, I'm Holly of Fertility Chatter on Instagram, and I wanted to share mine and my husband's story of our journey to parenthood, our struggles through fertility issues, miscarriage, IVF treatment, loss, and all the heartbreak that goes with it. And our journey through egg sharing recently and our current IVF cycle. So me and my husband Mark have been together since we were 16, fresh out of high school, and it was something that was, I suppose, kind of unspoken between us for quite a few years, that we wanted a family. It was high up on my priority list. I always wanted to be a mum, and it was just something that we wanted to focus our adult lives on. We got our first house when we were 20, and as soon as we had the offer accepted and we knew we'd be moving within a few months, we decided that I would come off the pill. 20 seemed quite, felt like we were really grown up at 20 years old, but looking back, and I still feel like I was probably a kid, but it was the right thing for us to do. And straight away started tracking my basal body temperature and things, just trying to maximise our chances. And I'll be honest, I had no understanding at all of my cycle and the best time to conceive or anything. I knew that I'd ovulate, and that's when the best time was to try and get pregnant, but that was massively limited knowledge. That was pretty much all I knew, and there wasn't a massive wealth of information out there, and support forums and things like there are nowadays, but we did our best, and it was pretty much 18 months later that we actually found out I was expecting, which seemed like quite a long time. It hit me by surprise. We've been concentrating on some quite intense family issues of mine at the time, when I suddenly realised that my period was quite a few days late, and I did a test. I just had a test randomly in the house, and I went downstairs in the morning, went to the loo and did a test, and it was positive, and went upstairs and woke Mark up and showing him this test, and he's looking at me and looking at the test like, what does it mean, what does it mean? So I wasn't going to show you if it was negative, and we were absolutely over the moon. It just felt like it was the break we needed. After dealing with quite a couple of weeks of really horrible situations, with my parents having quite a messy breakup and other things as well, and we were over the moon. We were so happy to be parents, and our families were over the moon, and we started planning straight away. We told everybody very early on. It was kind of 6-7 weeks when we were telling everybody, because we were just over the moon, and then sadly at about 10 weeks, I started experiencing spotting quite a lot. Contacted the early pregnancy unit, who sadly not very understanding at all. I think they thought I was trying to get myself in for an early scan, which I wasn't. I was really upset at work, struggling at work, and I finally, my mum actually ended up ringing them and demanded that I go in and see somebody, because it was causing so much distress. We didn't know what was happening, if I was still pregnant, or if I'd had a miscarriage, or I was having a miscarriage. So I went to the early pregnancy unit, and they scanned me and basically said that they thought that the baby looked a bit too small for the dates that I'd given them, but just to see what happened. So I left it a couple more days, and all of a sudden I thought everything was okay. The bleeding had stopped. And thought everything was fine, and then I had my sister and a partner around on a Friday evening, and we were just kind of chatting, and I felt extremely ill suddenly, really bad pains, and I went to the loo and realised then that I was having a miscarriage. So we went to the hospital, and they confirmed that I'd had a miscarriage. I think the most difficult thing about that was my dad's reaction. We were in the car on the way home. My dad had driven Mark and I to the hospital, and he was talking to my mum about it, and basically saying he didn't know what the whole fuss was about and why we were so upset, because it wasn't actually a baby, which I've never kind of let go of. He's my stepdad, and it has kind of ruined our relationship since then, from my perspective, because it was my absolute lowest point, and I needed him, and it broke my heart. It was really difficult for me and Mark to deal with, and we didn't talk about it how we should. It was just kind of brushed under the carpet and forgotten about. well, not forgotten about, but we just didn't discuss it. We were still very young, and I don't think we knew how to deal with it. But we carried on. We continued trying. It put our relationship under a lot of strain for quite a while, and we continued trying from then on. And through my 20s, we just had no luck. I tried to do everything, all the ovulation tests and everything, and nothing worked. And I kept going to my doctor and explaining that we'd been trying for a couple of years, and he kept laughing and saying, well, you're still very young, stop panicking about it, and it'll happen. And it just wasn't happening. And we went through that for quite a few years. We discovered Mark had a varicocele, and he had that operated on and opened up. They kind of fed a spring through his jugular down to his testicle, and they opened that up and they said that could improve his sperm count. I had procedures done, nothing, there was no issues, obvious issues found or anything. And my doctor just wasn't interested in trying to help, and every single time I went back, he'd tell us to try again for another 6 months, and if nothing happened, go back. And it was just this repeat cycle of him kind of laughing and saying how young we were, which I know we were, but we'd been trying for a long time. And I think finally when I was maybe 27, we were referred, we went to see Mark's GP, and Mark basically demanded that something happen. So finally his GP said, look, I'm more than happy to refer you for further investigations and for IVF. So it was just it was like a weight off our shoulders that finally somebody was listening to us and taking us seriously. And we started the process, finally started on our first IVF cycle. And we went through the cycle. It was difficult and emotional, as anybody who's been through it would know. We got 12 eggs at egg collection, and after after 3 days we only had 2 embryos that could be used, so they decided to replace both of them. And when I did my test 2 weeks later, it was negative, and we were absolutely heartbroken. And that was in the October. And I think I was convinced it was going to work. I think I was absolutely convinced that it would have worked first time, and it was just destroying that it hadn't. Excuse me. So that was at the end of October. We decided to have Christmas, have a little bit of a break, enjoy some time to ourselves, and we got a call early February saying that we could start our next cycle immediately. So we went into the clinic the day afterwards, and they gave me the meds, which I started taking maybe the day after, and they kept me on the same dosage, which was really low, because I've got polycystic ovaries, which nobody mentioned to me until we started IVF. And then one of the nurses who scanned me told me that I was polycystic, which I'd kind of suspected, but never had a diagnosis or any investigations. So we went through the process, and they collected 5 eggs at egg collection, and I was absolutely heartbroken. Again, I just thought, well, if it didn't work with 12 eggs, it's not going to work with 5, with less than half the chance, so it's just not going to work. And the nurse kind of maybe told me off a little bit and told me it was about the quality of eggs and not the quantity, which I've never appreciated until maybe in the last couple of years. And she was very, very, very right to do that. At day 2, we only had 2 embryos, and they were both of not great quality. So they said they wanted to put both of them back in immediately. So we had embryo replacement. And again, we did the 2-week wait, which was absolute torture. Didn't sleep the night before the testing. Both of us lied in bed from early hours of the morning, just crying and not knowing what would come if the test was negative, because it was our last round of NHS treatment. So I got up and did the test, and we stood in the kitchen and waited for the test to appear with the result. And when we looked, it was positive. It still gets me now. We both just fell to the floor, absolutely sobbing. It was amazing. It was just what we'd waited for. Contacted everybody who knew. It was just the most amazing day. It was wonderful. And then we went for a scan a couple of weeks later, and amazingly, they told us that both the embryos had implanted, and they picked up 2 heartbeats and we were having twins, which we were just over the moon. It was just like our family made. We were thrilled. So we started kind of making plans, and in your head, and for having twins, and looking at prams and everything else. And once again, we were very premature about what we did. We were only 7-8 weeks pregnant, but we were over the moon. And we went for our 12-week scan, and when we were in the scan, sadly the nurse told us that she was only picking up 1 heartbeat and one of the embryos hadn't grown, which we were devastated. It took away the magic of that scan. And yeah, we had what we wanted, and my mum said that, should you wanted a baby, you're having a baby. And that was so right. Again, we were very, I suppose, very selfish, but we had in our heads that we were having twins, and we were really upset about the loss. I was told not to see it as a loss. It wasn't a loss because we had the baby we wanted. So again, we just buried, the experience and the feelings from that. And it was a terrifying pregnancy from then on. Everything went perfectly, everything was absolutely fine, but we were just on edge all the time. It was terrifying, but I enjoyed every second of it. I loved it. And my little girl was born on the 29th of October 2015. I had a completely natural labour. I wanted to do something naturally myself. I didn't want science to intervene. I didn't want to have pain relief or injections or anything. I wanted to do this my way because I hadn't been able to do anything else my way. I wanted to be in control of something, and the labour was amazing. It was the most amazing experience, and I loved it. Straight away I would have happily done it again, which I don't think many people say. And she was perfect, still is. She's 5 years old now, and she's our absolute world. And as soon as we'd had Mia, we said that we wanted our families to be bigger, so we were happy to straight away, not necessarily try again. We didn't want to try again and put ourselves under that pressure, but we didn't want to use birth control. We wanted to see what would happen. So we left it a couple of years, and nothing seemed to be happening. And I'd kind of accepted the fact that it wasn't going to happen naturally. We knew we needed assistance. We had it because my husband's sperm count was so low. So we knew what we'd have to do, and I started investigating private treatment, how much it would cost, and it was shocking. And I started reading about egg donation and egg sharing, which I really liked the sound of. I think once I'd had my daughter, once I'd had my baby, I felt that maybe if I had the means to help somebody reach their goal of becoming a parent, I should do that. I was still young enough, well, I still am young enough to egg share. And I just thought, I can't imagine being one of these ladies that gets to kind of, maybe late 30s, early 40s, knows that her own eggs aren't suitable for whatever reason, and be waiting for a donor to come along and have that pressure of age, and not being able to potentially have treatment because of age or whatever other factor, and just be waiting for somebody to donate their eggs. And I just thought I couldn't imagine being in that situation, and it having to rely on somebody else to come forward. It would be so difficult to deal with. And I mulled over it for a long time, kept thinking about it, reading information about it, and I was terrified of telling Mark what I wanted to do. I didn't know how he'd take it, and he would just say to me, "This is absolutely crazy, no way, you're stupid, let's concentrate on us." But I plucked up the courage to speak to him one night about it, and he just said, "Yeah, of course, if that's something you want to do, then I'm completely behind you. It's it's your choice, but I'll back you up." It's like I said to me, it wasn't just an implication for me, it was an implication for our entire family because of the anonymity of donors and things. So I know it wasn't just me, it could potentially affect in, say, 20, 25 years time if somebody wanted to make contact. It was our entire family, but he was really supportive. So we decided to go down the egg sharing route, and we did that with a private clinic who ramped up my FSH drug to stimulate my ovaries, and I sadly overstimulated. So when we went for the embryo transfer, I was extremely poorly, and they refused to do it, and I was devastated. But We got 25 eggs, which was amazing. So we had 13, but from the 13, the numbers whittled down. We had a really low fertilisation rate once again, and only had 2 embryos. So they froze them, and we had one replaced a month or so later. Again, came around to do the test, and the test was negative. Like my husband kept saying, you know, we've got our amazing little girl, we've got to focus on her, you know, we've got what we want, we've got our family, and you know, anything else is a bonus. It was still difficult though. And then we went back again for our next frozen embryo transfer. I had quite a difficult cycle. I didn't respond to the meds very well, and it was a lot longer than it should have been. That was at the beginning of this year, and we tested on the 2nd of March, which was the day before we tested for Mia. So I thought, is that a nice omen that it's the day before? And we did the test, and once again it was negative, and we had to start the entire cycle all over again. I did phone the clinic on my birthday to get updated prices and what have you after the failed cycles, and I asked them about the other couple who we egg shared with, about the recipients, and I just asked if there'd been any update on their own treatments. And they gave me the news that they'd actually had a little girl from the cycle, and I couldn't believe it. It was just the most amazing news, and it made me realise that I'd made the right decision to egg share. It was a big decision to make, and I didn't know how I'd feel, especially with us having no success from the cycle, and it just made it worthwhile. It was I just think we've given somebody the most amazing gift we could, and we're so proud of that. And it's something we talk to people a lot about, because I think a lot of conversations should be had around egg and sperm donation, to help people become parents who can't necessarily by themselves. So definitely one of my prouder achievements in life. At the moment, we are on our next round of IVF. We had egg collection last week, and we have shared again. I got 20 eggs, so we had 10, and we have had 4 blastocysts frozen, which is amazing for us because we've only ever had 2 from all 3 of our previous cycles. So we're thrilled with that. I've not been very well. I've overstimulated, and then I had some horrendous pain a few days ago, which when I've gone to the clinic and they've checked, one of my ovaries is twisting and untwisting, and it's not been a great few days, but I'm feeling much better now and excited to get started on the meds for the frozen transfer as soon as we can. You know, we're just excited we're excited to carry on the journey, but obviously we're very nervous as well. But we feel like we've got 4 very good chances. The embryos are good quality, so we're hopeful that this may mean that we can have baby number 2 soon, and hopefully have 1 or 2 still frozen for in a couple of years' time. If we decide we want we want number 3, which I do. I don't know my husband will feel, but I've told him I've got to go through the injections and everything, so I decide when our family stops growing. But yeah, it's a difficult journey. It really is a difficult journey, but it's something we're proud to be a part of, as hard as it is. We've got an amazing network of family and friends around us, and we're so grateful of that. You know, we couldn't get through it without that, and I'm so grateful to my husband because he's just amazing to have around, and my little girl as well. She watches me do my injections. She knows that she came from me doing injections because mummy and daddy need a little bit of extra help to have a baby, and we're very proud of that as well. You know, we wanted to grow up not thinking that it's a taboo subject, that somebody can't have a baby naturally, because I think if she was in that situation, that she should know that, you know, that there's people there to support her, and it's the norm. It's becoming the norm. Sadly, my introduction to IVF was as a child, being in the car and driving through my local town and seeing people with signs saying test tube babies. You know, it shouldn't be done. You're playing God. It's wrong. And that was my first ever introduction to IVF, which I think is wrong. It's really wrong for people to have them views. Obviously that was quite a while ago, and I think people have much more modern views now. But there's a lot of misconceptions. I had people at work asking me if we used a turkey baster, thinking they knew how IVF happened, and I feel like I've educated a lot of people about how IVF works and how fertility works and things, and I think that's something that everybody should endeavour to do, and just offer support to people as well, and talk about losses and miscarriage, and not attempt to understand it or give people advice. That's one of the hardest things, being told not to see something as a loss when you do, and you don't share that, and it affects other aspects of your life. So I think just know that there's a massive support network out there for you, even if you've not necessarily got people in direct contact with you who've experienced this, but there's a massive support network. The people that I follow and follow me on Instagram have been amazing. The amount of messages and well wishes I've received during treatment and when I've not been well has been overwhelming, and it's just so nice talking to people and understanding and sympathising with their situations and their experiences. So yeah, best of luck to everybody, and if people do want to follow me, I'm at Infertility Chatter, and I'd love to receive messages from people asking for advice or support, or expanding on my experiences. Okay, thank you.